Hey everybody, my name's Kyle Beckman and this is Flight to Financial Freedom, where my life's passion is helping guide you down your flight path to your financial goals. I'll be revealing the secrets I use to reach financial freedom at age 43 and retire for good. I'll be passing on tactics that I've learned over a lifetime of insatiable zeal for things like stocks, saving, real estate, and even businesses. I use simple, proven, effective teaching strategies like those used at the world's best flight training program, United States Air Force pilot training, where our allies send their best and brightest, and I was an instructor pilot for over 13 years. I'm living proof that even without starting with any money at all or ever having a huge salary, you too can reach financial freedom and break the chains of the rat race that are keeping you from that most precious of commodities, your time. So speaking of time, let's not waste any and get right into it. Today we're going to be talking about the basics, but every good flight briefing starts with objectives so we can know where we're going. Objective number 1, learn the definition of financial freedom. Objective number 2, internalize why we would aspire for financial freedom. Objective number 3, learn the one simple formula that brings it all together and I think holds the recipe for financial freedom. With that, buckle up and get ready for takeoff. Okay. This may sound obvious, but on this channel we're going to talk about money. And why am I wanting to talk about money? Well, because nobody else does. How crazy is it that in society, all these things that used to be considered things that you couldn't talk about, things like sex, politics, religion, now you can talk about those things. But the one thing that nobody still talks about is money. So we're going to give you true talk about money. And we're not going to pull any punches and we're not going to be quiet about it. We're going to talk about money because that's the way that you learn about money. Our education system doesn't teach it. I mean, why don't they? Why is it they spend more time teaching cursive than they do people about finance? And yet, most people deal with money every single day of their life. It's very important that people begin to understand money. So, by God, we're going to talk about it. Now, I will say, you're probably here because you wanted to learn a little bit about finance, and it's not your fault that you don't know it because they don't teach it in the schools. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault. But I'm serious. It's not your fault, but I'm not going to let you off that easy. Because from here on, from now forward, you have the opportunity to learn. You're in a time period where information is so abundant. There are 100 websites out there. There are places that you can read. There are books. I mean, the information that we have at our fingertips is like never before. So there's no excuses. I'm not going to take it easy on you. You have to put in the time. What I would like to challenge you to is spend some time improving your financial knowledge. Now, I'm probably preaching to the choir a little bit because you guys are already here, but it's important. What I would challenge you to do is to give up 15 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes of each day that you're currently doing something pretty much worthless like scanning Facebook or watching Netflix. And I want you to spend that time instead learning about money. Because learning about money is one of the ways that you get yourself to financial freedom. Okay? All right. Ran over for now, but we'll come back to that again, I'm sure. Because it's kind of one of the key points of what made me want to do this. All right. So we said objective number 1 we were going to talk about the definition of financial freedom. So I've read some definitions out there. I don't necessarily like them. Here's mine. Financial freedom is when you've achieved enough money and passive income that you no longer have to work to overcome your expenses. and you can do whatever it is that you want or nothing at all for the rest of your life. So that's financial freedom in my opinion. So why would people aspire to that? Why is it even important? I mean, money can't buy you happiness, right? True, but money can buy you a jet ski. And have you ever seen an unhappy jet skier? I haven't. All right, they always have a smile on their face. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is it can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you temporary joy, and it can avoid some unhappiness, right? So, for example, my wife and I don't have to fight about money. We don't have to fight about being able to pay the bills. Now, trust me, we find plenty of other things to fight about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but we don't fight about money anymore. So that's one less thing to make you unhappy. The most important thing that it does, and I alluded to this earlier when I talked about getting back that most precious of your resources, your time. So very few of us have true freedom in our lives. Now, for those of you who live in the United States or in other free countries, you have a lot of freedom. And I spent 25 years of my life fighting for that freedom, so it's pretty damn important to me. But you don't have true freedom in that you can't do whatever it is that you want with your time. And to have that ability, like I do, is pretty incredible. Because you can truly find what it is that drives you, that you're passionate about, that you love. And you can do that, right? If you want to be a baseball coach, go be a baseball coach. You know, if you want to fish all day, you can fish all day. You can sit on your couch and play Fortnite all day if you want, but I'm telling you, I've tried it, you'll get tired of it after a couple of days. So you can do whatever it is that you want. And the cool thing about that is that our interests, they wane, right? They wane, you know, they ebb and they flow. And so sometimes you're going to be excited about something, and then maybe the next week or month or year, it doesn't excite you as much. I know I have all kinds of hobbies that I kind of have grown into and out of a little bit. So having the freedom of your time allows you to choose that which you want to do the most. Okay? So that's why we should all aspire for it. That was objective number 2, by the way. Number 3, the one simple formula that brings it all together. Okay? So to do this, I'm going to need a little bit of assistance here. So through the magic of YouTube, I instantly have a whiteboard. With that whiteboard, I'm going to write down for you what that simple formula is. So we're going to start with green. Got our pens here, like all good fighter pilots do. We're going to start with green. So PI Okay, so remember earlier I said that this had the recipe for financial freedom? Well, there you go. Your recipe is pi. So, anybody out there have any idea what pi might stand for? If you do, write it down in the comments. I'll know if you're lying. Okay, no, I won't. Pi. So, PI, what does that stand for? It stands for passive income. So passive income greater, and a lot of times I'll write this actually with an E, or with a greater than or equal to sign. So PI greater than or equal to E. E stands for expenses. So when your passive income is greater than or equal to your expenses, you pass the pi. All right, pass the pi equals financial freedom. Because as I said in my definition, once we have passive income that exceeds our expenses, we don't have to work anymore, right? Passive income, so let's talk about what passive income is. So passive income is income that you don't have to work for. In other words, it comes in automatically. Now, there are kind of different levels of passive income. Some income is really passive, for example, like a pension maybe. Not a whole lot of those out there, except for those of us who spent some time in the military maybe, or, well, 20 years in the military at least. So there's pensions, royalties maybe might be another example of that. There are passive income that's maybe a little bit less passive. For example, investment properties. So that's something that I have. So we have some investment properties. They aren't completely passive. We do have to do some work on them. Now we're not out there changing toilets or unplugging toilets. We have plumbers that do that, but we are the ones who have to take the call, and then we have to call the plumbers and tell them to unplug the toilets. So that's a little bit less passive than money that came in without any work at all. Another example of passive income might be dividends from stocks, and so that's usually pretty passive. But of course, if you have to, if you're a good investor, you're continuously evaluating the businesses that underlie the stocks, right? Because as I'll tell you in a future video, and when we go over what stocks are all about, stocks aren't a ticker symbol; they're a business. So if I own a share of Amazon, I own Amazon. And it's important that I keep track of that business and make sure that it's still functioning in the way that I bought it for. Dividends, you don't really have to do much work, but you do need to make sure that the company isn't failing on you. Other passive income might be like, some people do like YouTube videos and things like that. So granted, they take a little bit of upfront work, but the money keeps rolling in. And that's kind of the way a lot of this passive income is, right? So when I bought these investment properties, I had to basically fix them up, and I didn't flip them, but I fixed them up. And some major renovations had to be done. Same thing would be with royalties. Same thing with my pension. So obviously I put in my case, 25 years. So I put in a lot of years of work to be able to get to that passive income. So sometimes the work is up front to allow you to later in life have that passive income. Real quick, why would a person want to put in the work now and not put it in later? Let's cover real quickly what I call my time-money theory of relativity. I have a son, he's 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, I didn't have a whole lot of ways that I could make income. And so my time was not worth very much money. And I couldn't make a lot of money doing different things. And I didn't have very much of it, right? So I had very little money, but tons of time. As I've gotten older, my time is growing a little bit shorter, hopefully not too short, right? But my time has definitely grown shorter, but I've made a lot of money, and I've found ways that I can make a lot of money. And so my time is worth much more, right? And that's why I think time is actually your most precious commodity. I put in the work to create this passive income, or when my time isn't worth that much money, so that later on in life, when my time is worth more, I don't have to work, I have passive income coming in. Once we have these expenses, less than or equal to our passive income, then we don't have to work anymore. And now these expenses, sometimes that can be fluid, right? So you have to be careful with your expenses and what you spend, and you may have to, I would always recommend that you make this passive income high enough that it exceeds your expenses. That's why I generally keep it as a greater than, but theoretically, it could be equal if you were to keep your expenses equal, right? So there you have it. Pi. Pi is the recipe for financial freedom. Now I wanted to talk about one other aspect of this formula, which is integral to the formula itself, is that there are two sides of it on either side of an equation, right? So one way to get to financial freedom is to get a ton of passive income, right? And that way you can buy more toys and you can still be able to afford it with your great amount of passive income. But the problem is, we already talked about, to get that passive income requires work on the front end. So yeah, by all means, if you can get a ton of passive income, do so. I would recommend it. But this E is pretty important as well. And this is why I said that even if you don't have a huge salary or didn't come from money, I didn't come from any money. So you can still achieve financial freedom. And here's the reason. You have a couple of things going for you. One of them is you're more hungry, right? Because your expenses always had to be low because you didn't have much money. So that hunger towards that money can sometimes drive you to do the work and put in the time necessary to get this passive income, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I spent fixing up investment properties or studying stocks. So definitely that's one factor. And the second factor might be even more important, is you don't necessarily have champagne and caviar taste, right? So you're able to live more affordably, and thus your E can be smaller. So again, two ways to deal with this. If I want to retire now, I already am, but say that you wanted to retire now, maybe if your time is that important to you, maybe you just need to lower this E a lot, right? Cut down on those toys, cut down on those expenses, for sure get rid of that debt, and now all of a sudden, you've reached pi yourself. You've been able to pass the pie. So that's the formula. I think it's useful in helping to simplify everything for you, and to understand that the key, though, is this passive income. One thing that I want you to take from this channel, I guess, is the opportunity to speak openly about money. Put your stuff in the comments. Ask me questions. Let me know what it is that you want to learn about. Because I have some ideas of where I want to take you, but ultimately, I want your feedback too, because I want to take you along the path that meets your money psychology. And oh, by the way, that's going to be one of our future topics, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about is being able to find your individual money psychology. So not just mine, but yours, you YouTube viewer out there. Find out what that money psychology is, and then me helping to teach you based on that psychology. You learning based on that psychology, me giving you some special tidbits and ideas to help overcome maybe some of the issues associated with that psychology. So that's something that I'm super passionate about based on my background with psychology, which we'll talk about at another time. But so that's what the future holds, right? We're going to talk about psychology. We're going to go in depth into a lot of different topics, more about passive income, more about stocks, a lot about real estate. Okay, so I'm actually a real estate agent, a licensed real estate agent, inactive currently. So I have a lot of knowledge and passion about that topic as well. So there are a lot of things that we can go into, and I really want you to come along for the ride. Like I said, I'm financially free. I'm retired. I could do whatever the heck I want with my time. But what's great about being financially free is I can do what I love. And to be honest, this is what I love, helping teach you. So I hope that comes through in the video. I hope that you'll join me for the rest of my videos, because I promise you I can teach you something and we can learn together. Remember, I know we didn't get too far today, but I can't make you into a financial Top Gun in one video, okay? So it takes two. No, it takes a little bit more than that, right? I mean, even it takes about 2 years for me to take a lieutenant, or the Air Force to take a lieutenant and turn him into a lethal fighter pilot. So it takes a while to create the sort of expertise necessary that I can really get you down that flight path, okay? So right now we're just kicking the tires and barely getting started, all right? But we're going to get there. So pull the trigger on that subscribe button, drop a bomb on the like button, and prepare to enjoy the flight.